Hello. How are you guys doing tonight? I'm sitting here in the Meyer parking lot. I was listening to my audiobook. Getting geared up to vlog. I'm listening to this book, and it's very interesting. It is called, make sure I get it right, The Dangerous Art of Blending In by Angelo Shermilis. And it's about this Greek kid, and he's gay, but he's not out. And his mother, they're like Orthodox Greek, Catholic. I don't know if that's something, but anyway. And she's like hyper religious, and anything that he does that's kind of effeminate, she like beats the shit out of him. And the dad is like afraid of confrontation, so he kind of allows it. And it's like this kid, he's like all alone, and all he has is like his journals and his best friend who he like has his crush on. It's like, anyway, it's just, I'm just like sitting here listening to it. I'm like at this pivotal part of the book. It's so sad. This kid is like completely alone. And I was thinking, like, it's interesting when you hear these stories, you know, and I know, like, so many, like, I know that there's got to be so many people out there that are still, like, in that position, you know, like, I always think of that Layla Alcorn, who was the transgender teenager that stepped in front of a semi and killed herself. I wrote a blog post for the Huffington Post about her, and then at her funeral, her parents misgendered her. And like in her suicide note, she said something to the effect of like, things will never get better, things will never change, and even if I get away from this society, will never accept me, I'll never be who I want to be. And I just think, you know, it makes me so sad. And it's just never feeling like you fit in. And I wonder if it's something that, like, everybody feels. You know, I remember years ago, not too many, but 5 or 6 years ago, like, I met this guy that I had gone to, like, junior high and high school with, and he was, like, the quarterback of our football team. And we kind of became friends for a while. And, I mean, we're still friends. I mean, I would still be friendly to him, but I just don't see him very much anymore. And we were talking one day and about high school or something, and he was like, I said something about, you have no idea what high school. He said something to me about, like, do you ever miss high school? And I said, no. I said, I miss my friends and like hanging out in high school. That was fun. I said, but I don't miss high school. I don't miss being that age. And I said, you have no idea what high school was like for me. It was total hell. And he looked at me and he goes, and here's somebody that I thought like had it all figured out, had everything handed to them, you know. Great looking guy in high school. All the girls wanted him, you know. Scholarship to one of the best colleges in the country. Which he ended up, like, I think hurting his leg or something, and like ended up going to a different school. But anyway, he looked at me and he goes, you have no idea how horrible high school was for me. And I go, you have to be kidding me. And he was like, no. He was like, I had so much pressure on me. I had so much, like, you know, people always expecting everything from me. I had to be perfect. I had to get like straight A's. I, you know, had to like, you know, be at every practice, at all of this. I had to please all the coaches. And he was like, it was a different kind of hell, but I wasn't able to be myself. He ended up becoming like a writer, and he's very artsy. And he's like, you know, I never got to be like who I was, and, or who I was in my head. I never got to be who I wanted to be. He was like, you know, I had to do all this stuff that was expected of me. And I was like, you wouldn't have played football in high school? He was like, no, I loved football. I would have played football. He was like, but I don't know that it was that important for me to always be number one. Which I think is an interesting, you know, kind of way to look at it. And so I wonder, like, is everybody's, like, experience in life, do you feel like you don't fit in? Do any of us feel like we really fit in? You know what I mean? Like, maybe none of us feel like we fit in. kind of interesting to think about it that way, you know, when it's like, and what does that mean, fitting in? I mean, from my youngest age, I've never felt like I fit in. I've always felt like I was on the outside looking in, always. And even can almost kind of feel like that with my family at times, you know? Like my family of origin, even though I'm an only child, like with my mom just one-on-one, or with my dad and my stepmom one-on-one, I feel very much like, but, you know, with like my extended family, I feel like that. And I really felt like that at first around Alex's family, but like Alex kind of like forced me to be part of the family, like showing up. And when we first started dating, I would be like, he'd be like, well, I'm going to go over to my mom's house for dinner. I want you to come. And I'd be like, oh, I've got a lot of stuff going on. And I did that like 2 or 3 times, and it was truly just because I didn't want to go. I was like, I felt inadequate. I felt like uncomfortable. And then one day he was like, you know, it kind of hurts me that you won't make an attempt to come around my family. And so after that, I did, and I explained it to him. Like, you know, I was like, I have so much social anxiety. Like, I'm so uncomfortable around people because I never know what people are thinking. And I've always had this my entire life. And he was like, people love you, Peter. He was like, what are you talking about? He's like, every time like I introduce you to somebody, everybody just like immediately like loves you and thinks you're so kind and so funny. And I was like, well, but see, people see that in me, but I don't see that in myself. And I have to say that my mother-in-law was really an integral part of like bringing me into that family, to the point where, I mean, like, I feel like I'm part of that family. And, you know, when we got married, she said to me, like, she whispered it like in my ear, like when she gave me it, she spoke at our wedding. Well, she walked Alex down the aisle. My dad walked me down the aisle. And then she spoke. And when she spoke, she told this story that had been told at her wedding and had been told at her mother's wedding about these 3 strings that make a rope. And she was talking about how each string represented like one of her sons, and that when they were growing up, she would weave these strings together. It was this beautiful like poem that like had been written like 100 years before, right? About these 3 strings that have been like braided together. I'm not even doing it justice telling it, but that sometimes strings break and you have to bring in different strings to tighten the rope, to make the rope stronger. And that I was the 4th string in her family. And then like when she was done, she was like crying, and she like whispered in my ear when she hugged me, and she was like, thank you. She was like, you are my son from now on, or something like that. So you'll forever be my son. And she always says that to me. She was like, I love you, Peter. You're my son, you know? And my cousin Caroline actually called me today too. So, you know, but at times, like even with my friend groups, you know, like Tanya, I went and got Tanya earlier tonight, but even with Tanya, like, I feel like if we're one-on-one, I feel great. But if it's a group of like 3, I'm fine. But if it's a group of like 5 or 6, I sometimes feel on the outside looking in. You know what I mean? Like I have felt like that like a lot of my life. And it's just hard. I don't know where that comes from. That insecurity and that lack of maybe like believing I'm good enough. You know, I feel very blessed to have had 2 parents that like really, really believed in me. You know, my parents were always very affectionate to me. They thought through every parenting thing they did, you know, like even though my parents did not love each other, well, I think they had mutual respect and love for each other. They didn't like each other, which is why they got divorced. But they always I always felt like at the time it kind of pissed me off, honestly, because I really couldn't get away with anything. I mean, if I was busted at one house, I was busted at the other, if that makes sense. If I was grounded at one house, I was grounded at the other, although I was really never grounded. But you know what I mean? Like, whatever I got in trouble for at one house, like grades or something, it was like the same at the other house. Like, they communicated constantly. They always parented on the same page. And, I just was raised by 2, you know, fantastic parents. Were they erred humanly a little bit? Sure. But, you know, they did the best they could, and they were always very affectionate to me. Both my mother and my father are huggers, kissers, you know, just really decent human beings that encourage me to dream big and work hard and be successful and just love every minute of my life. They always said life is a gift. Both of them are just people that are inspired by living, you know. And I tell all these stories about my mom, like, and how much she, like, loves the details of life and stuff like that. But, like, my dad is so very much like that, too, you know? Like, my dad he is happiest sitting on the patio of my dad and my stepmom live on a lake. And, like, looking out over the lake at, like, the birds and, you know, just sitting out there smoking a cigar and with his dogs. Like, he loves it. And he'll send me pictures of, like, the dog. Well, it's just one dog now. He'll send me pictures of, you know, the dog and, like, curled up in the corner outside, you know, on a towel or something, and or of a bird that he sees, you know. My dad is just that guy, like, that appreciates just all these little details about the world, you know. And so, I don't know, I feel very blessed. But then you wonder, okay, so this person that grew up with, like, support and strength ends up becoming somebody that's really insecure. And I think it has so much to do with my sexuality, you know, that I was pegged different from a very, very young age. And, you know, I sometimes wonder, like, and I've talked to him about it, but, like, I have a lot of friends of mine who came out later and were very masculine, you know, in high school and college, and some of them were in the military, and you would never know, like, in a million years that they were gay. And they're like, you know, my experience is hard too, because I have to come out over and over and over again because nobody assumes that I'm gay, which is, I never thought of it that way, you know. And they're like, and my experiences wasn't any easier or any more difficult than yours, because, you know, all of these people expected that I would, you know, marry a woman. And so I think everybody's, you know, all of our experiences are different and equally probably tough. I mean, not equally tough. I mean, I cannot compare my life to somebody in some third world country that doesn't have clean food or water and, you know, has been, you know, orphaned due to, like, AIDS and things like that. I mean, I can't compare my life to that. I have an amazing life. But I think those kind of, like, things that make us have difficulties society-wise, you know, I think are hard. I think it was interesting. I got a comment on my vlog the other night. And it said, I always see you as so confident, so it's hard for me to see you in this video. And I thought about that, and I thought, you know, it's interesting to me that somebody perceives me as confident. And I kind of, like, do you ever have, like, somebody says something to you, or you, like, hear something that, like, sticks in your head all day long? I kind of have this conversation with myself all day long about, like, my confidence level. And like, to some degree, I think, like, I don't think of myself as very confident, but I really am. Like, I really don't give a shit what people think to some degree. You know, I think on the heels of that video the other day, I mean, you know, like, it was important for me as such an animal lover that I am, and that I include my dogs in almost every video that I do to some degree, that I wasn't going to have a bunch of bullshit rumors out there. I just wasn't. And so, but other than that, like, and I think standing up for yourself sometimes is very confident. You know, I think there are times in life that you very much have to stand up for yourself, and I think there are other times that you let stuff go. It just isn't that deep. It's just not that important, you know? And I think confidence is also about, you know, being your wacky, crazy self and embracing that. You know, those times that I am like I wear something a little different. The thing is, like, when I was in high school and college, like, I was, like, out there as far as, like, how I dress. I wore always, I mean, now, and it has a lot to do with my weight, I dress very much for comfort. But back in the day, I was, like, always into, like, different clothes and what was kind of cutting edge, almost style acceptable, and things like that, you know, and I miss that a little bit. And that's my laziness. It has nothing to do with me, like, being worried what people would think. And, you know, then you get to a point where it's kind of like, you don't really care what people think as long as your friends and your close family love you for who you are. Because they're the ones that really know you in and out, right? So I've said this on here before. Like, I don't care what everybody thinks. I care what specific people think, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like, it is important for me that specific people in my life, you know, it's true. It's important for me that my friends and my close family and my husband know some truisms about me. That I'm a person of integrity, that I'm honest, that I'm caring, that I'm kind, that I'm compassionate, that I do the best on a daily basis to improve myself, that I'm not perfect. Do I shit talk, you know, with people? Yes, I'm human, you know. With some of my close friends, do I talk shit behind people's backs? I have. I'm not the best person in the entire world. You know, I think that's what friends do sometimes when they're just kind of joking around, you know? You know, am I lazy at times? Yes. Do I always think everything through that I do? No. Am I always selfless? Never. I mean, I'm not always selfless. I think about, you know, things. And so, is there a lot of room for improvement? Absolutely. And I think that that's where life is a learning experience, and that you continue to grow, and it's like I'm a work in progress. And, you know, I hope that I improve in those areas, you know, every day. When I pray with my higher power, I ask that the next day, you know, that I'm a better version of myself than I've been today. And I ask, you know, to help me work on being more kind, compassionate, caring, understanding, patient, tolerant, and loving. And those are attributes that are important to me. I don't ask to be better looking, thinner, richer. You know, I just don't ask for those things. Because in the long run, I don't know that those things are that important to me. I can lose weight. You know, if I really had that many issues with how I look, I could get a bunch of plastic surgery, Botox, Juvederm, and all that kind of stuff. And I don't hate anybody that does that stuff. You know, I mean, I really, like, hey, I think everybody's got to, you know, do what makes them the happiest. And if I wanted to be richer, I could, you know, bust my ass in doing things that would make me, you know, a trillionaire. But I do okay. I don't know, this book is like kind of like pulled something out of me when I was listening to it. It's interesting, you know, it's like a question like, would you go back to high school if you could? I used to say yes, but I don't think I would anymore. I think if I could go back in time, I probably would go back to like 19 or 20. No, if I knew what I knew now, I think I would go back to, you know, it's interesting because like if I went back to 19 or 20, I'd be living in my apartment here going to like IUPUI. If I went back to like 16, I could get sober at 16. I could have gone to like a college campus, which I don't even really think was for me. You know what I mean? But could I have gone to like an art school? Sure. Could I have been a little bit more dedicated and committed to what I wanted to do? Sure. But the weird thing is like my life, I feel like has turned out exactly like the way that it's supposed to. Like I feel like I'm exactly in my life where I'm supposed to be, if that makes sense. So like, I don't question that. I feel like, I mean, you mean being in the Meijer parking lot? Yeah, like, I mean, I feel like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be, you know? it was interesting because I was, my friend Paul that I was talking about the other day, he like, we hadn't talked in a long time. This is my friend in Denver that I almost moved out there to be close to. And also because I was talking to Tani about this tonight. She was like, oh my God, I remember that. She was like, you almost moved out there. I was like, yeah, I almost, that's why I was going out there a lot that summer. I was scouting out areas that I wanted to move to, And my mom's best friend, Susie, she lives outside of Denver. And so I was like, this is perfect. This is my next place. And there's a lot about Denver that reminds me of Indiana. So anyway, he texted me and he was like, I watched some of your YouTube videos. I was very entertained, although I honestly don't know any of the people or products you review. Insert old man status. But you seem to be enjoying yourself and found a great audience. And I said in here that there were a lot of like Peter Paulisms because we used to like a lot of the jokes. A lot of the things I sing in the video and say and stuff are like kind of jokes between he and I back in the day, And it's like every little thing that's happened in my life has ended me up to where I'm at today. So I don't know that I would go back to 16 or 17. I don't know that I would go back and relive any of it at all. I really don't, And I had this friend of mine that she used to ask me this question. She would say, if you didn't know your age, how old would you be? And I used to be like, 22. Like I said that forever, right? And this was like late 30s, I would say that. But now at 45, like if I didn't know my age, a lot changed for me between 30 and 35, like a lot. My mom passed away when I was 36. That was a pivotal year for me. 36 was like a big year for me. So, I got out of a relationship. I left a career of 13 years. And my mom passed away. And then 37, I got with Alex. So it's like so much change for me, like within the course of a year. And, I mean, really a lot. It's weird, I was thinking about this the other day, this is Alex and I's 10th year together. And it's like, okay, so I think about where I was like at in my life when I met him and where I'm at now. And, it's crazy, like the changes that like I have made in the last 10 years as a person and just in life, And it's crazy, like how he's changed in the last 10 years. It's crazy how life has changed in the last 10 years, I mean, I was looking at the dogs the other day, and I was like, PP was 2 when I met him, Little dude. He's so funny, I remember Alex being like, well, I think I did a whole video on how I met PP. And I remember I met him, I went over to his mom's house and his mom was gone, and he was like, Alex was like taking a shower and changing. And so he was like, wait in my bedroom. And he hadn't mentioned, like, this was like our second or third date, and he hadn't mentioned anything about PP. So he was like, just wait for me on the bed. So I was like, not for that. Like, we were getting ready to leave. And so like his bed was made, and he had like this this mattress on the floor in the corner of the room. And so like I was like sitting with my like back up against the wall, and I was like just going through stuff on my phone, and all of a sudden this little peepee, the Duncan just darts out of underneath the sheets and like boom, like darts down the hallway, and it was so hilarious. And then he comes running back in, and he like ran all up on me, and then he like ran back out, and I'm trying to catch him, and he like wouldn't come to me, and it was hilarious. And Which was so funny. And then, like, I was like, Alex, you didn't tell me that you had a dog. And he was like, yeah, that's Duncan, but we call him Pee-Pee. And I was like, what? You guys know you're confused. I was confused at first, too. He's like, well, my best friend Sarah, she called him that because he's always showing lipstick. And I was like, oh. So this is Sarah that's coming to visit at the end of the month. And then she's moving back here. So she'll be in some vlogs, too. I love her. She's just... It's like, if you've ever met two people that, like, on the surface should not be friends, but have, like, are literally brother sister, it's Sarah and Alex. Like, I mean, it's crazy how close they are. I'm so happy for him that, I mean, he started crying in Miami. He was like, I can't believe Sarah's moving back. He was like, I cannot believe she's moving back. I'm so happy. He goes, like, you know, I know she loved LA, but he's like, I'm so happy that she's moving back here. So anyway, but he was like, yeah, his name is Duncan, but Sarah, my best friend, named him Pee-Pee because his lipstick's always showing. I was like, oh, okay. So anyway, and now Pee-Pee's, you know, he'll be 12 at the end of this month. Little Pee-Pee. Little Pee-Pee. We ran into Alex's ex, who originally was the one that got Alex Pee-Pee. We saw him when we went to this sushi restaurant here not too long ago, the night that we went with all of our friends, and we kind of like waved at him from afar, and I said to Alex, I said, you should like go show him some pictures of Pee-Pee and like, you know, tell him how he's doing and stuff. He was like, he doesn't care. I think I just shared this on here not too long ago. I think I've talked to Alex's ex more than he has through the years. I used to say that, like, if we had met under different circumstances, like his ex and I would have been good friends. But like that, just so much. Like, we were going out all the time. Like when we first met, we were going out. I mean, like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and God, I loved it at first. It was tiring, but I loved it, you know. And we'd always go get food afterwards, and just, you know, it was so much fun. And now, like, Alex had two really, really close friends at the time, Demi and Cole. And Cole got married 2 years ago. We went to his wedding, and it was like upstate Wisconsin. They live like 10 minutes from us. He and his husband are so nice. And then our friend Demi, Demetrius, who I adore, moved to New York City like 6 years ago, and is doing great. So, and we rarely ever see him. And it's like so many of our friends have moved. Like Sarah moved to LA, and, you know, several of my friends have moved away, and it's like, a lot of my friends that were sober have like gone back out, and it's just, you know, it's weird how time changes things. And so it's weird 10 years later for us to be like, and the thing is also is that you have to understand that, like, when Alex and I started dating, neither one of us wanted a relationship. Neither one of us was like in it for the long haul. We were both in it just to have some fun. Like, we both made that very clear to each other. And then flash forward, you know, here we are. I mean, I definitely was one who wanted more of a relationship than he did, because I just, like, always love relationships. But I thought I was going to move to Denver, you know? There was no point for me to get attached. So for 10 years later, for us to still be together, have 3 dogs, live in a house, and maybe planning, you know, a move where we can go back and forth, it's crazy to me. It's been a good 10 years. And then I was like, you know, like 10 years from now, I'll be 55. And like, what's going to happen in the next 10 years? You know, it hasn't even, this is like the 10th year that my mom's been gone. Was I 35 when she passed away, or was I 36? I must have been 35 and then turned 36. Because May will be 10 years since she's been gone. And I honestly do not think that I would be the person today. I don't think I would have the confidence today. I don't think I would have the life that I have today. And I don't say this because I'm happy that she's gone, because it makes me sad, you know, when I think about it, and I miss her greatly. But I had to go through what I went through to realize the brevity of life and how short life is, and how, you know, this is a gift that we're given, and to enjoy every moment of it. I had to go through that, Or I wouldn't be on YouTube. I wouldn't have written books. I wouldn't have taken the risks that I took in my life, you know, if I hadn't lost my mom. Because at that moment, life started going like that. Oh my God, this is going to stop. I can't believe I'm at 30 minutes. I'll be right back in a second. Hold on, let's do it. 1, 2. Okay, I'm back. I don't even know what I was saying. Because I started listening to my audiobook. I was letting my camera cool down for a second. I think I was talking about, like, you know, had my mom not passed away when she did, I think it's a combination of things. I think, like, you know, it's interesting to me because there was a period in my life when I thought that my ex and I would be together forever, and that we would get a house, and that I would work where I worked forever and retire from there, and that would be my life, you know? Like, that's really what I thought. And, I think I've shared this story on here before, but, like, my mom and I and my ex and a friend of ours, whose husband went to school with my mom, high school, we ended up going to Gatlinburg, Tennessee for Halloween, like the year, like 3 months before I resigned from my position. And she and I were sitting outside one night, just like looking over at the mountains, the Smoky Mountains, which are absolutely incredible. And we had had such a good weekend, like all of us, you know, like, it just was like such a fun weekend. But do you ever, like this had happened to me in my previous relationship too. It's like you go away and you have like such a great weekend that it reminds you of like how bad things really have been for a long time. I don't know if that makes sense, but like, he and I got along so well that weekend and had so much fun that it was like, we hadn't been like that in like 2 or 3 years. Like, we had just become roommates. But then it like made me realize, like, I don't know, I just was so detached from everything in my life. I was so unhappy. And that weekend was just so great. I remember we went down on like a Thursday and a Friday, and we're supposed to come back on Saturday. And we ended up staying, we like checked in to see if we could like keep on staying at like this cabin for like a couple more days. We ended up coming back on Monday. And because we were having so much fun, and we went and played putt-putt golf in Gatlinburg, Pigeon Forge, and went out to dinner and made a chili dinner one night and watched all the old Halloween movies, and it was just so much fun. And it was beautiful. Tennessee mountains in the fall are just absolutely gorgeous. And we were sitting there, and my friend was not, you know, at the time, if my mom was 64, she was late 50s. And she just wasn't that happy anymore, you know, like, she was very honest with me about her lack of happiness in her life. And I think that what she said to me is poignant. I think it's a good message to everybody, you know. And we were sitting out there and smoking a cigarette, and she said, she was like, I'm worried about you. And I said, what do you mean? And she goes, you're just so unhappy. And I was like, what do you mean? I'm like, do you ever, like, other people can see it in you and you can't really see it in yourself sometimes? But, like, I knew, like, I was unhappy, and I was trying to hide it, you know? And she was like, you're just so unhappy. She was like, I don't think you want to be where you're working anymore. She was like, you know, you're not happy in this relationship. And I was like, and I just blurted it out. I go, okay, so what do I do? And she goes, I'll tell you what you don't do. You don't wait till you're almost 60 years old and your husband's sitting on the couch every night watching CNN news and you don't know what to do with your life. That was like almost verbatim what she said to me. And I don't know what happened, but in that moment, a fire was lit inside of me. And I was like, oh, I gotta get out. Like, I gotta change my life drastically. Like, I cannot do what I'm doing anymore, you know? And I just was like, I came back and I just was a different person, you know? And like, and I think it affected our relationship even more because I think I kind of started like I would try to bring up the conversation a lot about us and like, well, what's going on with us? Like, what are we doing? And neither one of us was willing to like go to any kind of counseling or anything. That was never a discussion. I wish it had been, you know, kind of. There's a lot of factors behind the scene that are, it's his story and his story affected me. And I'm not going to publicly talk about that because that's not fair to him. Nothing big deal, but just, you know, like, he had a lot of his own issues that were affecting him that then were also affecting the relationship. It's like not being happy with work and stuff like that. So, you know, like, I think that he and I had both met at we had both met like when we had like just gotten out of relationships, like within like the next 3 months. Well, that's not true. Okay, so, well, yeah, it is true because my ex and I had broken up on Valentine's Day, but then he ended up staying in the apartment for another month and slept on the couch because he didn't have enough money to move out. My friends were all so pissed at me that I let him stay there. So he moved out like the middle of March. So yeah, and we met in June, the middle of June, on what ended up being Alex's birthday. So it would have been almost exactly 3 months that we met, and I mean, we're like in it to win it overnight. And he had just gotten out of a relationship 3 months previous as well. And I think we were just like both looking for something, and it just seemed like magic at the beginning, and it, you know, it lasted like a year or two, but then it kind of like fell apart. It just like, we just became best friends, but there was like nothing really passionate or romantic. He's a great guy, you know, he's a good person, but there just wasn't anything romantic there, you know. There was no like, I mean, like, my husband walks in the house and I'm like, damn, you know. Like, it was so funny because like I came in tonight and I was like, I mean, I looked like I look right now, you know. I had like gone and gotten a fountain pop with Tanya, and Alex was like coming home from going out to have dinner with his girlfriend, and we were like laying in bed next to each other. Now let me just tell you, I had my hat off, okay? Look, I mean, and he like put his hand on my chest and he was like, you are so handsome. He was like, you know, I just don't tell you that enough. He was like, you're so handsome. I was like, you say it all the time. He's like, I just feel so lucky to have such a sexy husband. I'm like, I don't know how he sees that in me, you know, but at 10 years to feel that way towards one another, and it's not easy, it's work, you know, and it's kind of looking past the who took the trash out and who did the dishes and who did the dogs and stuff like that. It just, that stuff doesn't really matter, you know. Like, there was a period where we started getting real caught up in that stuff. Like, well, who's going to do this and who's going to do that? It just doesn't matter. It really doesn't, you know. It's like, okay, if I have to take the dogs out 8 times in a day and, you know, he comes home and goes right and watches TV, or, you know, for the next 2 days, if, you know, he's taking the trash out and doing all the laundry and I'm just sitting there not doing anything, that's okay. And I think that that's what marriage is all about, is a trade-off. But then the other part of marriage is really keeping the passion and the romance alive. Like, you know, when people say that, like, sex is not an important part of marriage, bullshit. That is not true. Not one. I mean, it is a very important part of it. And I'm not talking about, like, all, you know, full on all the time. I'm talking about intimacy, you know, and, like, what we've learned in marriage counseling about the 10 different kinds of intimacy, and, you know, really allowing that person in on some level. My ex and I, we didn't have any of that anymore. None. I mean, we could have gone through that list of 10 and it was all gone, you know? And, but that relationship prepared me a lot for my marriage. And one of the things that it did is that it made me fight for my marriage. It made me, like, and Alex says this too about his last relationship, that we were both kind of like, we weren't willing to go to counseling, and we didn't really fight for it. And so we really, like, fought for this marriage, you know? I'm proud of 10 years of marriage. Like, I never, honest to God, I never thought we would be celebrating, you know, well, I guess I shouldn't borrow time. We're not at, you know, our anniversary yet. But I never thought, like, you know, that we would ever make it to 10 years together. Well, first of all, I just didn't think that, like, at the beginning, if you had asked me, I would have been like, it's just not that deep, you know, like, marriage is a beautiful thing. I love being married, you know? We've gotten more of our friends to start marriage counseling. It's kind of funny. Like, so many of our friends have started marriage counseling because of us, because we talk about it all the time. Like, when we go out to dinner, we're like singing the praises of our counselor. And they're like, did your counselor, we're like, he's not taking anybody new. He's completely full. We've been trying to figure out what we want to do. We were going to renew our wedding vows this year, but we really want to do somewhere special like Fiji or Thailand or something like that. And we just don't think that's realistic financially this year. So we probably won't be doing that. But definitely, if we don't do it this year, we'll do it next year. We decided we were going to do it like with a bunch of people, but we decided we just want to do it with one couple, and we're thinking Melissa and Jason, because they're probably our best couple friends, you know, like friends that are a couple. We do the most with them. And and Alex even mentioned, he's like, well, we could do Ultra next year because they're going to Ultra with us. And I was like, oh, we could do that. That would be kind of a fun time for us to renew our wedding vows. It would be like so perfect because that's something that we love to do together, you know? So anyway, God, I'm like deep in thought tonight. What is going on, Peter? You are having some deep thoughts of the world tonight. My friend Paul sent me this video, and it's like, do you guys remember the Downtown Julie Brown show back in the day? And they would always, like, on MTV, they would always, like, start it off at a club. Okay, this is the kind of shit that we used to live for. This is where I talk about little clips of like humor that he and I are like in my videos sometimes. So we would say this to each other, I mean, all the time. And you guys would die if you saw Paul. He's like bald, huge, real good looking, and like very tatted. Like has tattoos all over, and dresses very cool. Like flannel shirts and overalls and like jeans, you know, like with really cool like high like turtleneck sweaters, these big knitted sweaters. He's just very cool style, and he's married too. And but anyway, he sent me this video, and it was of this girl, and I don't know how, he was the one that originally found it, and it was this girl, and she was like dancing, and she looks kind of like Madonna. I'll just show it on here sometime. I have it, and she's like dancing, and Julie Brown's like, so what are you guys, and her name is Cirilla, not Priscilla, Cirilla, like the store, Cirilla's, and she's like dancing like this, and so Julie Brown goes, so what are you guys going to be doing tonight? And she's like, I mean, all kinds of things. We're dancing, and there's going to be contests. And Julie Brown's like, contests? And what do you win? And she goes, prizes. And so we used to say that to each other all the time. We would go, prizes. And anytime we saw a girl that looked like Cirilla, we would nickname her prizes. Oh my God. See, that was some fun shit that I had in my early 30s. Your 30s are fantastic. My 40s have been awesome. And my 50s are going to be even better. I remember my mom when she was in her 50s, she was like 51. My mom got sober at 51, you know? And I just think that's so funny sometimes when I think about it. Like, her best life she lived from 51 to the time that she passed away. I mean, you know, and some of us think it's over the hill, that life is over. My mom lived her best life 51 on, you know? And she would say that. She'd say, the best part of my life was once I turned 51 and got sober. I had the most fun. I was less afraid, you know, like I was willing to do stuff. And this is one of the things she would say to me. I'd say, what's it like being fit in your 50s? And she'd say, you just don't give a shit anymore. You know, it's like you do what you want to do and you don't give a shit anymore. And she's like, it's fantastic. And I'm not begging to be in my 50s yet. I still have a couple years, 4 and 2 months, so we can wait. But but you know, like, that's the sad thing is like, as you get older, like, your capacity for fun and not caring is greater. You just don't have the body you had when you were 20 to do it. You know what I mean? And it sucks because it took you all this time to get there. And then it's like, okay, now I'm 50. I can't do the things I wanted to do at 50 because when I was 20, but it's like financially you're in a better place, so you can afford to do the things you want to do when you're 20, but now you can't do them. You know what I mean? It's like this catch-22. Unless you're in super good shape, I guess. I was looking at somebody's picture tonight. It's a friend of mine, and he had it hashtagged addicted to the gym, and I thought, there's a hashtag I'll never use. Although I do like that Lululemon stuff. I would like to have some Lululemon stuff if it wasn't so expensive. Alex is like, why do you want that Lululemon stuff? I said, I really just want like the sweatshirt that has the hole in it. This is how corny I am, okay? I really just want those like workout shirts that have like, you know what I'm talking about, that have the hole for the thumb. I think that's cool. And he was like, so you're gonna pay $200 for like a jacket that said $200. I said, they're a little pricier than that. He goes, okay, so you're gonna pay over $200 for a jacket just so you have something to put your thumb in? I said, well, I think it's really cool. He goes, do you know what sizes they come in? I was like, you need to be very careful where you're going right now. He started laughing. I was like, I'm sure they make them for the bigger gals. Don't worry, okay? I will find one, or I will start running like crazy. I do miss running. I need to start running again. I'm not even going to talk about any kind of diet on here or anything. I'm not. I'm just going to do the big Oprah reveal one day. I don't know when that will be, but it will be one of these days. And I'm just like, look, I'm skinny. And you guys will be like, oh my God, what happened? I kept it all a secret on my daily vlog. You couldn't tell. It's like when you're reading those magazines and they go, are you bathing suit ready for summer? Yeah, I've been bathing suit ready for 20 years. Put me in a pool and I don't give a shit what I look like. That's how it is. You kind of don't care either, you know, a little bit as you get older. I mean, that is one thing that's changed me a lot. It's like, you know, back in the day, I was so concerned. Oh my God, I should show you all some pictures from back in the day when I would like go on vacations with my dad and stuff. I was a good 30 waist. I remember I had the most fantastic bathing suits from J. Crew. They were like a mid-thigh. They like buttoned over. They were so cute. I remember one time we went to like Grand Cayman or something. I had like, I looked so adorable. But anyway, you know, you care about that stuff. I can remember laying there and being like, does my stomach look too poochy? I mean, I was like working out every day and running every day. Now I'm sitting on the beach with my complete pooch out, and who cares? Don't nobody care. Who's looking at me? Nobody. I just want to enjoy life, you know? And what's funny about it is, like, you know, Alex, like, he's like right now, he's like, I'm at like the weight that I want to be. And since I talked about it on here and he's, you know, put it on his Instagram recently, you know, Alex has a history of eating disorders, and which is really one of the things that connected us early on, is my addiction and him talking about his eating disorders, because we kind of understood each other on some level, you know. But he's at like a really healthy weight. And he's not like, you know, trying to be controlled by that and all that kind of stuff, you know? But it's funny because, like, I like Alex with a little bit more meat on his bones, and he's just so weird about it, you know? But if you love somebody, you gotta let them be who they want to be. Like, that is one of the #1 keys to a happy marriage, you know? You gotta really let that person be who they want to be. I've been wanting to go to this place called the Metro Diner. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner all day. When I went to, was it Atlanta? We've been there twice now, Atlanta. There was this restaurant by our hotel, and I swear it was called the Metro Diner, and I think this is the exact same place, but I'm not sure. But I really want to go and find out. Oh, you guys, when I took a break, let my camera cool down, I checked my email, and you know what? I am so pissed. It said they attempted to deliver my sweet Audrina, and they couldn't deliver it. I'm like, nobody knocked on the door. I was at the house all day today, and I'm so mad about it. And I was like, ugh. So, if you don't know, I'm starting a book club on my BookTube channel. It's called Peter's Book Club. I used to want to come up with really catchy names for stuff. I'm like, no, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm just like, it's Peter's Book Club because I started it. And we're doing like pop culture books. So the first book that we're reading is My Sweet Audrina by V.C. Andrews. And probably your best bet, if you don't want to get it on Amazon, is to go to a thrift store and try to find it, like Goodwill, because I'm not finding it anywhere at any major bookstore. Even half-price books, but you might be able to find it at half-price books, but I couldn't. But anyway, we're starting that on the 15th. So that's this Sunday coming up. And I can't wait. And some people said they are already halfway through the book. Now, that is not how a book club starts. I hope y'all know. You wait till the day, and you don't start it till that day. You get an F for the class, boys and girls. No, I'm excited. So we do that, and we're starting that in in a week. Oh my God! So that book better come. I better find that book in the mail. I'm going to go to the bookstore and get it. They said, or whatever, or not the bookstore. I mean the post office. We were unable to deliver your package, and then they put My Sweet Audrina. I was like, this is so funny. Oh well. We got to figure out, I have to meet with the tax guy on Thursday. I'm not excited about it. That will be hours upon hours. And then, and then we need to get patio furniture. I'm looking over here because this is like, they have a tent where they keep like all of the, like, where you can buy plants and stuff, and they always have like the best plants at those grocery store tents. They always have the most beautiful plants, and I want to get a bunch for the patio this year, front and back. Oh my Lord, that Gatorade is so good. Oh my gosh, I've been talking for 53 minutes. 5 o'clock in the morning. It's not 5 o'clock. 3:45. 5 o'clock in the morning. Where you gonna be? Outside on the corner. I need to go home and go to bed. I've got, I don't really have a long day tomorrow. I have my individual counseling session at 1. And I am beta reading a book for my publisher right now. So I was going to spend 2 hours doing that in the afternoon. And then I already have my Peterisms and BookTube video made for tomorrow because something was wrong with our internet today and I couldn't get them uploaded in time. So I didn't post them today. So I'm going to post those tomorrow. And then make my video for my main channel. And then go to our Tuesday night meeting tomorrow night, me and Tanya. We just talked about that tonight. So, I think from now on, I've decided that I'm gonna start going to like the Tuesday night meeting regularly, because we've changed our counseling session. So I either, like, on the week that we don't have it, I can go, and then the other weeks we have it at 6 p.m. So I can go because it's at 8 o'clock, and then I just leave there and go pick up Tanya. And then I'm also going to go to either, like, one of the Friday, Saturday, and Sunday candlelights. And so that'll be 2 meetings a week right now, and then probably a pickup through the week somewhere, like a meeting that I haven't been to before, or something like that, or a meeting with my sponsor or something. Yeah. People ask me all the time, they're like, at 23 years, like, how many meetings a week do you need to go to? I would never recommend just going to 1 meeting a week, because it's hard to back away from 1 meeting a week. What that means is if you give up that 1 meeting, then you have no meetings. So I think you should at least go to 2 meetings a week. This is just my personal experience based on what I have gone through. For me, between 2 and 3 meetings a week is really good for me. If I go to more meetings than that, for a month or 2, or month or 6 weeks, I'm like really in it to win it, and I'm loving it, and I'm very, very focused in recovery, almost too much, wanting to do all kinds of service work and sponsor 1 million people and all that kind of stuff. And then what happens is I almost kind of start getting a little like anxious with recovery, if that makes sense. And so 2 to 3 meetings a week for me right now is really good, especially with everything that I have going on, with working on a book. And is this where I want to go? No. Especially with working on a book, you know, wanting to spend time with Alex. And, you know, my old sponsor on Sunday, he asked me, he said, now are you going to be coming back regularly? And I was like, yeah, I said I'm going to be coming back regularly. I don't know that I'll be coming back every week. And he was like, why? What's going on that you got going on? And I said, it's not that I have anything going on. I said, it's just, you know, if Alex and I said, we love spending Sundays together. Sundays are my favorite day. And I said, you know, if we want to go to a movie, I want to have that option. If, you know, my in-laws are having a dinner or something, I want to have that option, be able to go and not feel like I have to go to this meeting. I said, this isn't my home group anymore, you know? And he was like, oh, I totally understand. He was like, well, just, you know, we'd love to see you. And so everybody was so nice. And it kind of felt like coming home again a little bit. So I don't know if this will be for anybody out there, but this is just my experience, and I want to share this with you before I go. If you're in recovery or you're sober and you haven't been to meetings for a while and you're afraid to go back because you're afraid that everybody's going to say, oh, where have you been? Or, oh my God, you haven't been here in forever. Or you're just embarrassed. Get your ass to a meeting. Nobody cares. They would rather have you there. And this is my experience from having not gone to meetings, you know, for a while back in the day. They would rather have you there, and I can tell you that everybody will welcome you with open arms and love you. Nobody will criticize you. Nobody will be judgmental. I've never experienced that kind of, like, you know, overt judgment with people, and they're not willing to talk about it. I mean, have I had my encounters with maybe 1, 2, or 3 people in my 23 years? Sure. But overall, no. People are fantastic, and they've always just loved me and, you know, loved me until I couldn't love myself and wanted me to be there and be part of all of that, you know? And it's a fantastic feeling to walk into a room and have that kind of overwhelming love presented to you. It's amazing, you know? And I think there's very few places like that in the world. I think churches are like that probably sometimes. I don't know. Maybe sometimes they're not. But, you know, I think like a lot of sports teams are like that. I think anywhere where you feel like you belong. And, you know, for me, especially talking about fitting in at the beginning of this, you know, vlog, it's like I didn't feel like I fit in forever. And then even in early recovery, I didn't feel like I fit in. And, you know, just 6 or 7 years ago when I started coming back to meetings regularly and I was going to 7 meetings, 14 meetings a week, you know, and I met people and I put my hand out and I did the work and I introduced myself to people and I wanted to make a lot of friends in recovery, then I felt like I was part of something. But I had to do the work, you know? And a lot of times to be part of something, you have to do the work. And it's hard sometimes. It's hard to, you know, take that risk. But I can tell you it's worth it just to be part of something. So I love you guys, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.